Welcome everybody. I've already asked this, but just for the sake of knowing where everybody's from, can you just shout out what state you're from or what district you're from, real quick? I'll start in the back. Nebraska, Illinois, Nevada, Ohio. Con- yes, we love that. Kentucky, Connecticut, and where are y'all from in the back? Colorado. Okay. Ohio and Ohio. Okay. Well, thank you all so much. So welcome to it's adapting the community classroom or the community classroom, expanding the scope of the classroom. Okay, so I'm gonna give you just an overview. If you saw the notes on the presentation, it's gonna say essentially the same thing. The three main things I'm gonna be covering are enhancing student recruitment, engagement and recruitment, strengthening business partnerships, and promoting community involvement and celebration. So I'm going to really briefly hit those points, those individual points, but also I'm gonna just demonstrate how really I do them in my program. So as I was introduced, I'm Dr. Reginald McDaniel Jr. I'm the business management and entrepreneurship teacher at the Academy at Shawnee in Louisville, Kentucky. Shawnee is a Title I school, so we have over 70% economically disadvantaged students. So a challenge is really trying to make the learning process engaging. Trying to find different ways for these students to be able to be on this highway of education and be able to see what's their off ramp, right? A lot of times we spend in our classrooms trying to justify why they should just be sitting and paying attention to us when we know what the end result can look like. So speaking of end results, these are my graduating seniors from last year. Just take a moment, look at this wonderful group of kids. Okay. What do y'all notice? Someone just blurted out real quick. Several students going right straight into the workforce. How you doing? Hey. Business owner. What else do you notice? There we go. There's a gap year up here. So what does that tell you? That the students felt empowered enough and felt enough ownership to say, you know what? I'm going to wait and see what's the best decision for me instead of being pressured to go right into the workforce or go to college. And I love that. Now, this young lady right here, I want to highlight her because I'm very, very proud of her. Her name is Sakara, okay, or Kara. Kara is a freshman at the University of Louisville. She is studying sports management, and she wants to work for the Tennessee Titans, which happens to be my favorite football team. So I'm really rooting for her. All right. So we took a field trip to the Tennessee Titans Learning Lab. If you're in the area and you can swing that, it's a wonderful experience where the students get the opportunity to learn about the behind the scenes of running an NFL team. I know some of y'all are in Ohio, please ask the Bengals if to do something like that because it's a life-changing experience because I don't know how many of y'all teach athletes, and I know as business teachers, you probably got a lot of athletes. Going to the league can take various forms. So if you can find something like that, I challenge you to do that. All right. So let's get into these tenets of the presentation. All right, student engagement and recruitment. So you want to make sure you are teaching courses that honestly make sense, right? You want to make sure you're teaching teaching courses that are actually going to prepare your students for their post-secondary career, whether that be the workforce or going into college or taking a gap year. Right? You also want to make sure you're talking to your students, your colleagues, and industry leaders within the community to make sure the content and how you're executing your standards is actually relevant to what's happening in the real world and in these industries. Okay? I want to say this as clearly as possible. CTSOs or career student technical organizations are not extracurricular. They're co-curricular. They are an extension of the arm of what's happening in your classroom. So if you are in this room right now and you're treating FBLA or DECA or HOSA or any of these other organizations that there's a separate thing, you are doing yourself a disservice. So please change your ways. It'll be okay. And then you want to create a consistent culture. You should have shared experience through all your classes. I'm going to take a quick poll right now. Raise your hand if you teach freshmen. Okay, raise your hand if you teach sophomores. Yep, keep them up. Raise your hand if you teach 11th graders, 12th graders. Okay, there should be a common set of norms from the top to the bottom and bottom to the top. Okay, from your call and responses to things that are happening within the classroom. Okay, so just an example of a few things. So I talked about making sure your curriculum is relevant. So when I first came to Jefferson County, I've only been teaching for 5 years, just as an FYI. This is my 5th year of teaching. When I first came to Jefferson County, I was essentially thrown in the classroom. I was teaching business math, intro to management, teaching principles of entrepreneurship, and business and marketing essentials. That was the exact order of my course, my flight plan, rather. Sounds a little backwards, doesn't it? You should be teaching those intro classes first, not at the end. So for 2 years, there was a lot of confusion in my building because I'm like, well, what am I supposed to be teaching if I'm supposed to be doing intro? So I pivoted and I said, okay, well, let's look at what's going on in the rest of the district. There was no other district that was this other school. And I got some friends from Easton here can attest to this. There was no other school teaching business math. And if you're like, what's business math? It's personal finance with a business lens. It has its purpose, but if the pathway is management and entrepreneurship, really didn't really work out. It didn't make sense, right? So if you're not familiar with Jefferson County, we utilize the Academies of Louisville model. So what happens is students come in as freshmen. They are in their own academies. It's a NCAC model, rather. They're in their own academies, do a little bit of career exploration, and the only time I will get to see the freshmen is towards the end of the year when they are doing their pathway selections. And then from 10 through 12, they pick a pathway. Shawnee is awesome because they have aviation, they have graphic design, they have engineering, aircraft maintenance, we have early childhood, patient technician, and of course business. But we're also fortunate to have JROTC. So there's a lot of opportunities there. But the struggle is finding those spaces for the kids to buy in. So you can look at my flight plan. You can see when I got my hands on the controls, what I made sure was going to happen. One, the flight plan makes sense now. There's definitely scaffolding, right? But you also see every single one of my classes has one or more dual credit classes associated with it. And not even lists the additional ones we have through our partnership with the College of Business through the University of Louisville, which is the Cardinal Bridge Academy. My students have the opportunity that if they pass 2 of those classes with a 3.0 and above, they bypass the admissions requirements to get into the College of Business. So by the end of their junior year, they can already have a spot at the University of Louisville. How many of y'all can say that's something that y'all had when y'all were going to college? Anybody? Not me, right? So that's that alignment piece. So moving forward, and it's probably going to buffer, and that's okay. But here we go. Just going to pause it because it's not loud enough. So what's happening here is that my students we were studying product and service management. Specifically, we were talking about the marketing mix and pricing. And my students said, can we do something that really makes this more relevant? So we played the lemonade stand game. Some of y'all know cool math games, right? So what's happening in this video is my student, who is a junior, figured out the algorithm. Okay, he finished the game with almost $200 of profit. I was impressed because I've never figured out the algorithm, right? But that's an opportunity where you're giving your students agency to make their day, right? And that's something that we're all trying to figure out. How do we get them to buy in? All right. Now, this picture here is important to me, right? These set of pictures, because our FBLA chapter only got reactivated about three to 4 years ago. Okay. These 4, that was it. That was it. So they were the ambassadors for the organization. Okay. But what we did, we attempted to get more people. We did projects in class. We took the competitions, events, and we made them assignments in class just to be like, hey, you think this is something difficult? Nope, you've already done the assignment. But still, it was like, what's going on here? Well, they busted their behinds with recruiting. And we went from 4 to, at the end of the year, we had 44. And we actually got #1 chapter percentage increase in the state. We had an 800% increase, which was phenomenal. And as their advisor, I'm like, oh, well, this is great. So, the proof is in the pudding. If you are allowing your students agency and you just stick to it and you don't just treat things as separate, you can see what can happen. Now, I talked about having norms and expectations like that are consistent across the board. On the left, you have part of my student contract. Okay. On the right, you have our field trip contract. All right. On the left, I took the employability standards from the Kentucky Department of Education, threw them in ChatGPT, and I said, I need 10 words that I can use in my classroom as reminders. And you know how we come up with our norms and expectations, we put them on the wall. Mine are eagerness, responsibility, respect, collaboration, integrity, excellence. It says lifelong learning here, but it's Kaizen. I love that word. Safety, self-accountability, and then resolution, because we resolve our conflicts by the end of the day. Right? So with that, as you can see, each one is assigned to those employability standards. So you can do it. If you're like, how do I quantify participation? You can do it, everybody. You can do it. All right. The other thing, so if you have a D, you're not leaving with me. That's my rule. If you have a D, you're not leaving with me. If you're not handling your business in the classroom, why should I let you leave with me? And I had several students on Tuesday say, Dr. McDaniel, why didn't you take me? Did you have a D? Yeah, I had a couple of Ds. Well, there you go. No, they didn't ask me. They asked me on Monday. Tuesday, there was no conversation, right? So you got to have some common standards, but also some common experiences. We play, if you've never heard of Disrupt This, go on Amazon right now and buy the game. Okay? Buy the game. Because if you want a tool that's going to allow your students to learn how to be disruptors in their industries, this is a great game to practice. And this is so much a common experience for my students that literally they groan. Okay, they groan. But whenever we have guests come in the classroom and we play this game with the guests, the visitor always leaves impressed because they're like, why are your students so good at brainstorming? Because we do it every day. We do it in some way, right? But the other thing too is, remember I said earlier that we're in a Title I school. My first year of teaching, I said, I wanted no barriers for education. So what do you notice about the tables? They write on the tables with Expo marker. I have a separate line item in our program budget just for markers because that's how many we go through, whether they're thrown or not. All right. So the other thing, what do you see up in this corner? Those LAPs. So you can adapt whatever you do in your space to what MBA research has to offer you. So I just wanted to put that little plug in there because I'm also an ethics specialist as well. So if you're wondering how, there are ways. All right, so you set those norms, you get that recruitment. Again, like I said, I don't recruit. My students do that at this point. In fact, I really tell the freshmen at the end of the year, don't sign up. If this doesn't interest you, if you don't want to work, if you don't want to be a part of a culture of excellence, or you're unsure, don't sign up. And I leave it at that, because this community service, this going to conferences, having fun, to have a program trip, going to state conferences and being champions, that doesn't happen if you're not setting a tone. So take a second, jot down any ideas you have for student engagement and recruitment. You shouldn't have any, honestly. You're not recruiting. You're going to set the tone and people are going to come. Okay? So I'm skipping this one for now. So strengthening business partnerships. If you are not intentionally, as a business teacher, leveraging the business partners in your community, I'm going to close my eyes, cover my ears. You raise your hand. Okay, I shouldn't see anybody's hands up because that's something we should be doing, right? We need to be creating these opportunities for these real world experiences, real world learning. I don't have to say PBL and field trips. Y'all understand that these are things that we need to do because these students have to learn how to work in teams. They have to learn how to understand who they are and what piece they can be. I literally make my students, every student, every year, at the beginning of the year, whether you've taken the test or not, I make them do the 16 personalities test, and I use that to build my teams. Okay? So that's also a part of the norms. And I should have said that earlier, but it's important that they are doing these real world things. They go through a 1.5 week onboarding every year. These are my norms. These are expectations. This is your course. These are my norms. These are expectations. Now, do they forget? Of course they do. But I threaten them to go back to onboarding it whenever I need to. And it works, right? So the other thing, you want to make sure you are aligning partnerships inside and outside the classroom. I'm not just talking about businesses outside. You have individuals in your building that are entrepreneurs or connected to other individuals that can bring such and such into the classroom. Such and such is married to the CEO of X, Y, and Z. Oh yeah, they'll come for their wife or their husband or their spouse, you know? So think about that. You want to be fostering collaborations for long-term engagement. So have an annual project of some sorts, have multiples, have events. I do a speaker series, which I'll talk a little bit about, that I do every year. And now it's sponsored by one of our partner organizations. And it's been sponsored. This is the third year it's being sponsored, right? But also, you want to make sure you're utilizing an advisory board. If it's not a requirement for your district, get an advisory board. Get you some local dynamic people that want to see these kids succeed and meet with them regularly. And don't forget to invite your students. So again, what does that look like? You don't need it. If this doesn't load, we're going to skip through it, but here we go. It's going to buffer. That's okay. So if it does it. Okay, so what's happening here is I talked to you about playing Disrupt this earlier, right? So these individuals here, you got Kelly, Kat, and Henri. They are representatives from Young Brands. Now, we benefited by having a partnership with Young Brands through the Cardinal Bridge Academy, and they did do mentoring sessions every so often. They come in. You'll see on the next slide, they were talking about personal brand. Again, this is stuff these kids are getting for free, right? We'd have to pay for these PDs now, right? So these are the type of experiences you need to set up. But in this particular one, they did something called Innovation Lab, and they were asked to look at Taco Bell's existing products and come up with a new one that they could immediately start selling based off of their current inventory. And they were inspired by playing Disrupt This with the kids. You can do it. You can do it. So the other thing, that connecting with the community, right? This woman right here, her name is Alex Abel. Alex graduated from Shawnee in 2007, but she just happened to work for PNC Bank. So when we built a partnership with PNC, she came and was like, hey, I graduated from here. So what happened? She became a featured speaker, but also a part of those norms. She was in FBLA when she was a student, so she got the updated chapter shirt because she didn't forget where she came from, and we don't want our kids to either. We want them to pay it for it. We want them to come back. All right. So I talked about our speaker series. My friend right here was talking about graphic design. I freelance as a graphic design artist. So there's a lot of stuff that I design, and I'm just like constantly. You should have seen this during Spirit Week. I revamped all the logos for the kids because they're like, we need to do new logos. I'm just like, okay. And it was 3 weeks of just grinding, just trying to revamp it. You'll see the efforts of the work later. But as you can see, the speaker series, they were so impressed when they came the second year. They were like, we need to sponsor it. And the individuals that are coming are a part of a business incubator, right? So what they're doing is they are talking to entrepreneurs who are actively dealing with crisis, dealing with success, dealing with funding issues, dealing with those things that if they're going to go into entrepreneurship, what they're actually going to deal with. So how impactful can that be, right? So right here, I talked about an advisory board here. Every year, JCPS makes sure that we are meeting annually, but you should meet more than that. You should do more than your spring and your fall. They need to be actively coming to your classroom. They should be knowing the students by their first names, because when it gets to that next phase, you don't want them to be like, oh yeah, I knew such and such from Sean. That's a Shawnee student. Cool. No, you want them to know Mark, right? So This is my friend Chevy. Chevy is was one of my graduates last year. What he's holding are seasoning blends from Hot Iron Pantry. All right. So Hot Iron Pantry can be bought in Publix now, which is really cool, right? But right here on the left is a is really the what I'm trying to find the right word, but the students were asked to produce special blends as a PBL with hot iron pantry to come up with their own seasoning blends, come up with their own logo labels, and then they would pitch it. Chicken rub here, steak blast, warming seasoning were all inspired by student ideas. Okay. So you want to talk about real world impact? They literally have products that are being sold in a national supermarket from a silly project. Yes.
So was this a collaboration that you created, or was this a like, an all search for the new? Did the company approach you, or how did that hot iron was brought into the classroom?
Sure. Thank you for that question. So Mark Shirkness he's a over at Dub and Bucket. Dub and Buckets LLC. It was the creator of Hot Iron Pantry. Okay, so what they were doing, they were a new seasoning company on the market, and they were looking to give back because he retired from GE Appliances, and GE Appliances did a lot with Jefferson County. So he said, "I'm looking for an opportunity." So he came down to Shawnee and was just like, "Okay, Reg, what kind of project are we going to come up with?" And I was just like, "Well, it makes sense to help you out with some product development." And he's just like, "Yeah, that's what I want to do. Let's do that." And we sat down and we hammered out what the project was going to be, the different steps that we wanted to take. And we sat down and we just recently did that again with he's launching a new restaurant, and he wants the students to look at the menu. So that's going to be the sophomore project this year. But, you know, this is what we got from that. So thank you for that question. Any other questions while we're here? Okay. All right. So again, take a second. This time I will give you a minute to jot down any ideas you have for strengthening those business partnerships if you haven't already done so. So I'll wait. If you don't have a short list of business partners that you want to work with this year, make that list. Right? If you have some contacts that you have not called, even though you have their business card sitting somewhere, write their name down, or pull out your phone, open up Google Keep or Google Task, put it as a task right now. This is the time. Do it now. All right. All right. I see that happening. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, about 15 seconds. Okay. So, minute was a loose. Keep writing if you feel led. It's okay. So let's get to our third component and really the last part of this presentation. Promoting community involvement and celebration. All right. So 4 key things I'm going to hit: engaging the school-wide community and community members in school events. All right. Utilizing a consistent platform to share the victories. Celebrating student and community partner. And I really should have flipped those, but it's fine. Partner achievements and organizing recognition and celebration events. So let me show you how we put that into practice. Okay. So social events. Now, if you see this right here, this came directly from our FBLA scrapbook because I wanted, there's been several little moments in here where it's been student work that's been in here because this is not about me. This is about how great my students are and how they're buying into the program. So student made this page. This was submitted. We got #1 virtual scrapbook in Kentucky. Okay, so this is award-winning work here. All right. So you say anything bad about it, it's okay. We already got first place. Okay. All right. So as you can see, like we gave our principal ice cream. That was a big deal for them because they wanted to do this ice cream social starting out in room. This is room 364. This is my room. So if you're ever in Louisville, I'm not hard to find. They're used to people coming to my room anyways. Who you get to see? Dr. McDaniel? Yeah. How'd you know? He's got somebody here every other day. So But even when we were done, we had a little meeting. Then we went around the school and we gave out ice cream. We gave it out. We sold it here, but we gave it out there because we wanted to make sure that our students serve. Okay, if you are an FBLA advisor, you know service is one of the three pillars of the program of the organization. So, and I'm also a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So service is literally in my blood at this point. Okay, and my parents too. All right. But also, Shawnee does a wonderful thing. Again, these are ways to engage that you can use. They do an empowerment day. It's like a career fair, except they're getting life skills. Okay, like we're not teaching home ec in a lot of places anymore. We're not teaching personal finance in a lot of places anymore. Give the students some opportunities to get some of these life skills outside of your classroom. They go to the gym. They hear from healthcare. They hear from people that look like them. That's so important, y'all. That's so important. Like I told you, I don't know if I told you, my dissertation was on the equity practices in CTE, looking at it. And it's not just the policies, right? It's the day to day. So if you're not looking at the makeup of your classroom and making sure they are having experiences that reflect the background they come from or the experiences they come from, then you're doing them a disservice. Or if you feel like you got it down, take a second, pause, ask your students, do you feel like that you are seen in this space? If you get one no, you need to revamp. Okay? How many times have you had that kid quiet in the corner? How many times have you had that MLA, that multilingual student that is just sitting there? If you have a no, you need to revamp. Okay? So this thing that's going to load very slowly because there is a video in it is actually a partnership. We had a marketing challenge, theme night marketing challenge with Racing Louisville and Louisville City, our local professional soccer teams. Okay, so the students were tasked with coming up with theme nights, and of course this is going to work, but the students were recognized at a game for participating in the challenge. And then when they saw there were themes that were utilized that were very close to what they had come up with, the excitement level was just you could feel it in the air. Okay, but these are the type of things that your students can do if you engage with the greater community. Okay. So the additional things, I really hope this plays, but I know it's not going to because of the last one. But so I'm just going to explain what's happening here. So what you see here is evidence of student empowerment. Okay, back in August of this year, the Academy at Shawnee admin made the decision. Nah, nah, it's okay. I have other ways to show it later. I'll just show it. We'll have some time. If y'all want to watch it, I can pull it up later in another way. But the admin did one of the most wonderful things that is culture building that I've seen. They made sure every student had a Shawnee hoodie that said class of 20, etc. Okay. When I first got to Shawnee, one of the things I wanted to do was make sure every kid would have some gear because honestly, school spirit's been rather low there. You know, if you don't have the funds, you really aren't buying the spirit wear. Okay. So I started an account literally called Shawnee Spirit Club. And the purpose was any fundraising I had was to uh, be able to have enough money in there, at least at one point in time, to make sure every kid gets a something. I have not been able to do that yet, but the admin did it this year anyways. Was not my idea. It was our new principal that came in. She was just like, we can't have this. And I'm just like, yes, I get it. Cool. That money can go towards something else now. But it's fine because kids walked in the next day, saw more shiny gear than we had seen in a while, right? And we were again talking about the marketing mix, talking about product service management. And I asked kids, well, what did you think of the hoodies? Oh, we love the hoodies. And then I asked the most crucial question: how would you have rolled it out differently? So they sat, they thought a little bit, and they said, you know what? We could have done a spirit week. We could have done Spirit Week and got kids all excited to be a part of it, and then giving out the hoodies on the Thursday, the day before the pep rally, and then had a pep rally, and so all these students wearing the shiny gear, just get them excited about something, right? A week later, the Business Management and Entrepreneurship Pathway, the Academy at Shawnee, was the sponsors for the Homecoming Spirit Week. That was 2 weeks away. Y'all, I do not recommend doing Spirit Week if you only have 2 weeks. Okay. The few grays that I do have in my head got a lot grayer because of that experience, but it was so worthwhile because if the video would play, you would see this pep rally that my students planned end to end. You would see that they planned a homecoming court, they planned the activities, they planned what type of our printer. Listen, y'all, there is nothing worse, and I'm saying this from this experience. There's nothing worse than not having a printer to make posters and not having Chromebooks to be able to do digital files. We still yet to get our Chromebooks at this point. Okay, and we've been in school since what, August, since August. So you got to make do, right? You got to make do. So I think we're waiting on like our additional supply of Chromebooks. We have some. They've been able to do testing and all that stuff that they're supposed to do, but we don't have in our classrooms yet. So we went analog, y'all. So as you can see here, these are literally, they are printmaking essentially, making these posters to go up in around the building, to go up in the gym. And listen, it was phenomenal work. And the cool thing, again, when you're engaging with that community, you have students from outside of the business program that are hearing about what's happening and they want to be a part of it. All those kids that you saw in that first picture, y'all, I only have 68 students. So they had to come from somewhere, right? They were coming from aviation. They were coming from engineering. They were coming from graphic design. They were coming from JROTC because my students are talking about the awesome things they are getting to do. They are getting to have agency in their education. So again, if you're not doing that now, do it. Okay? And don't forget to celebrate them. For the last 3 years, I have done an end of the year celebration for my business students. I'm the only pathway until last year, JROTC did it finally, that has done it. Okay? This is the program. I do some sort of welcome, or actually, no, that's not true. I make the FBLA president do it because public speaking is a part of my pathway. They do stand and delivers. They are doing pitches constantly because I want them to be comfortable being uncomfortable so that when they have to step up, they're not trying to figure out and get it all together. They know what to do. They're able to rise to the occasion. Okay. So we do our FBLA officer introduction. Induction, because again, it's not extracurricular. It's a part of what we do, right? The students come up with their own superlatives. Sometimes they're disrespectful to me, but I'll take it because they're showing that they care. Okay. We have awards for the pathways. I give the students plaques for outstanding senior, junior, like some of y'all high school experiences y'all have had, right? They hadn't had that. But then we do a senior send off, and that tears me up every time because I am reminded of these experiences that we've had over the last 3 years. I don't think there's been 1 year where I didn't leave crying because I'll give them an opportunity to speak if they want to, and they destroy me because just the pride, the appreciation. Like, I never wanted to be the cool teacher, but they make me feel like I am. So if you're doing these things, they promote themselves. Okay. We have an Instagram page. If you want to follow us, it's SHS_biz. That's the piece I'm talking about, finding a consistent platform to share what you're doing. The biz page has now become a hub for a lot of other organizations that didn't have pages because they'll send us something and say, can you post it for us? Because now it's shiny business. So there's the car right there. Sakara, what I didn't tell you, Sakara had been suspended various times over the course of those 3 years. She was ready to drop out. And she sent me a message right after she she sent me a text message during the summer saying, hey, Dr. McDaniel, I just got a full ride to the University of Louisville, and I'm going to go into sports management, and I want to work for the Titans. I called her immediately because I saw the Tennessee Titans. And I kid. I called her and I was just like, what? She's like, yeah, like, because you told me to send that scholarship application anyways, even though it was after, they gave me a scholarship. Like, I was ready to quit school and not come back because she had a little toxic relationship, high school, blah, blah, blah. Right? But she was ready to quit. And she didn't. And you see what happened. She made it across the stage. She said peace because she was ready to go. And this year, she came back as a chaperone to the Tennessee Titans trip so that she could make sure that her peers underneath her former peers rather, were understanding what the expectations of the program are. Because it's not just a business pathway, it's a program. Okay? So, what ideas do you have for community involvement and celebration?
I think business partners, inviting them in your room to actually work side by side with your students, like what we were talking about at lunch,
Yeah.
is a great idea because they get to know the student that way, and they can actually, I think, be more beneficial when they see the student, for who they are and their successes and struggles. And if you can make those business partners alumni, that's even better.
I completely agree with that. And the other thing too is we're mom and dad at this point. And I know y'all remember when y'all were teenagers, it got to a certain point where you listened to whoever your guardian was, and it went in this ear and out the other. You got tired of hearing the same old cliches. Sometimes they need to hear it from somebody else. So every time a business partner says a McDanielism in some kind of way, some version of, because one of my favorite quotes that I make the students learn, it's better to have an opportunity. Be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than have an opportunity come and not be prepared. And that's Whitney M. Young Jr. I make them learn that, which in short, they've turned it into stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. Right? So when you have business partners coming in and essentially saying the same thing, I'm just looking at like, I'm not crazy. So, we got to celebrate those wins, celebrate those moments. In fact, even being here is a celebration of these wins that these students have been having and the trust that their parents and the community and our admin has had in me and being able to be a shepherd of these kids. So, just to sum this all up, if you intertwine student engagement with strategic community partnerships, you're going to have success, right? If you are cultivating an inclusive environment for your students inside and outside of the classroom, then they are able to look at that highway of life and see the limitless off ramps that they have and those possibilities. Thank you. So any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns?
I have no question, but I will brag on Reggie. I remember meeting him for the first time, probably your second year teaching when you started it.
I remember, yeah.
And I knew that we were all going to love him, and we do. And as you can tell, he's done an outstanding job and made a major impact on a lot of people's students and on his school.
Thank you.
I'm glad to call him my friend.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you, Angie. So, go ahead.
So a lot of what you do requires admin support.
Yes.
So how did you develop that relationship with your building administrators to give you the room to do what you're doing?
So, first off, great question. Thank you for that question. Honestly, I've had two principals that have come in. Principal Rice, who just retired, one of my biggest supporters, she was just like anything for the kids. So it really starts with the mindset of what are you willing to do for these kids, right? The new principal, Holly Smith, phenomenal principal. She came in with the same mindset, anything for the kids. And the admin, I wore the rest of them down. I told them, I've never run into a conversation I couldn't handle, or I've never met a stranger in life. So I just told them, this is what I'm passionate about doing. This is what these kids want to do. how can we make this happen? Before it was, okay, we'll just write a check. Now it's like, well, you got to raise a little bit of money because we're trying to rebalance the school. Because listen, y'all, we basically had to restaff a middle school. Yes, we have a middle school there as well. So there are a lot of priorities, but at the end of the day, they are supportive of somebody that's trying to take these kids that outside looking in don't know if they can handle these things and show the world, show the city that these students can be dynamic. Shawnee is just really a population of uncut gems, and they just need the right person, right people to be able to show them that they are shining examples of greatness. But it's really just wearing them down. It's just telling them this is what we need to be doing. This is like, you can take, I will send you my presentation. You can say, look, this is what's happening in Louisville, Kentucky. We can't do this. Yes, yes, we can. So you may just have to make some people jealous. Be like, well, I would love, because the other piece too is that the admin get to brag on your success, right? So selfishly, they can say, well, this is what's happening in the business program here with all the smug air that they can breathe. So just speak to their ego a little bit. Hey, if we do this, think about what you can say to your colleagues. That answer your question? Thank you. Any other questions?
We bribe our counselors.
There you go.
And actually most of our staff at one of our high schools does all the advisement for the next year's. Students will, we have our DECAS officers come into a common area and hand out donuts from DECA.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
And also with some information about the success rates and the graduation rates of CTE students.
Yes.
Things. I'm in a different position now at a district level position, but it is something that it's almost a sales pitch to your administration.
Absolutely.
And we call it student success. Student success looks very different. We would ask a fish to climb a tree. Not every child is an athlete, but we are. This CTSO is a no-cut sport, and we can improve every student from where they start to where they end in this program. And it got to the point with our administration when I was at the high school that it started off, I wouldn't say contentious, but suspicious, and my predecessor did things differently.
Mm-hmm.
When I came in, and I said, I'm doing everything for student success. That's what we both want. We have this in common. And it morphed into different fun things, and I still am in touch with many students.
Exactly.
Last 18 years, weddings, maybe.
Yes.
But the student success is seeing them being just be fully utilized human beings in our community. So for your question of administration,
You get it.
It might be contentious because you might have a sports high school or whatever it might be. But I think stepping is we have something in common if we want students to have success. I have enough
You exactly.
Piggyback off of that for administration, our CTE department, so it's us in business,
Mm-hmm.
Technology, and
Business
then
technology.
ag.
Ag. Mm.
And so the three of our, well, in family consumer science as well, we do a
Family
dinner
consumer science.
in February each year for our school board.
Mm-hmm.
And each student organization has a little, we do like a round robin that they hear from the students, they don't hear from us.
Yes,
They
that's
hear from the students, and we've gotten good feedback from that and support. Like when I took 6 students to nationals last year.
a good. That's a.
Amazing.
I'm gonna borrow that. So let me speak. Let me speak into my mic. Okay, so we already have the advisory councils, but make sure that the students are getting to speak up about the happenings in their pathway to those key people. So thank you for that. Honestly, I feel like a lot of you get it. A lot of you get it, and when you are adapting a community classroom, exactly what my friend back there said, you're going to be at those weddings. You're going to be at those college graduations. You're going to get those late night text messages. I mean, on the other end of that, you're going to, because this happened to me on Wednesday, you're going to be the first person that they speak to when they have a loss. So just remember that you get these kids honestly more than their parents do in a lot of ways. So be intentional with that time. You know, make sure that there is a community. My kids from seniors to sophomores and our stragglers that come in for FBLA, they know one time means one clap. They know who has the floor means be quiet because such and such is speaking. You know, they know what disrupt this is. And honestly, the fact that these are conversations happening without me even having to say anything is showing you that this approach can be extremely successful, meaningful, and can take a program from 12 students to having 68 to 128 to double to triple, whatever your situation is. I'm at a small school, so, you know, it's great, but I guarantee you, regardless of where you are, if you are moving with a community-minded approach, you're going to have some dynamic students, dynamic outcomes, and again, your admin's going to be bragging about it. So, again, y'all, thank you. Please connect with me. If this is best way to get in touch with me, everything. You'll have my email, school, personal, have my personal cell phone number. Just text me. If you don't want to use link, all you got to do is click the blue button, go down to the bottom, click download contact. Otherwise, if you do not have link, you can put a digital business card on your phone. Okay? So, because my joke used to be, I am the business teacher without a business card until I got this, and now it stays on my gallery. But thank you, everybody.